I was just watching Squawk Box on a network that will remain anonymous. They were talking about net neutrality and how it's going to make the internet free, and Trump's going to probably repeal it. Here's a general overview on net neutrality. Net neutrality promises free internet. The internet isn't free. What it does is it regulates the profit out of major internet backbone investment, because it won't let the people that invest, the people that own the backbone, charge more for higher speeds. So say if a Netflix competitor came out and said, instead of $8 a month, we're going to do $10 a month, but it's going to be twice as fast. That's illegal under net neutrality. I would like to see a free market where, I have Netflix, I like it, but if Netflix is $8 and I can get twice as fast for 10 from somebody else, I would like to consider it. I don't want that decision made for me. The other issue with net neutrality is the government gets very involved in regulating the internet. And if you regulate something, you can control content, even though you don't start out that way. Let me give you an example. The Federal Communication Act of the 1913 required that you get a license in order to have a radio station. They invented radio. You had to get a license to have a radio station from the federal government. Very quickly, the government, although the First Amendment says the government can't control speech, it could control the license to speak, and that is pretty much the same thing. So the people that own the licenses did not hire people that upset the government. Go look up FDR's fireside chats. These were really sweet, wholesome talks the Democratic president and then your Democratic governor and your Democratic Party had over the radio. The only issue was they were on every channel simultaneously, and the Republicans or any opposition weren't given a chance to speak. It's actually amazing that there is an opposition party left in the United States after the Federal Communication Act, because once you had those licenses and you decided that you were going to keep the existing government, which happened to be Democratic, happy, then you didn't have to let anybody else speak, but you had to let them speak. So every fireside chat that FDR gave was on every single channel, and it was followed up by his local political friends. His opponents didn't get to speak, which isn't the intention of the First Amendment, but it is the direct result of government regulations. And that's one of the reasons the media has ended up to be very pro-Democrat, because going back to the 19 teens, you had to be pro-Democrat to get a license to own a radio station. The radio station owners ended up owning TV. TV stations ended up buying most of the media, and they ended up becoming just a couple of very large groups that required a federal communications license to print money or advertise. Then a funny thing happened in the 80s and 90s. They concentrated on the TV licenses, and pretty much AM radio and then FM radio were kind of junk. And that's when the opposition, think Rush Limbaugh, came in. People didn't really care. You know what they cared about? They cared about TV. TV was sexy. Radio was old. And next thing you know, you get Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, that crazy guy, Glenn somebody. Anyways, all that became possible because the FCC licenses for radio pretty much weren't that valuable, and they let the opposition begin to speak. They want to do the same thing with net neutrality, which means that the government will have a great deal of control over content of the internet, possibly. I'm Tim with Tim's TV. That's my opinion. I think net neutrality ought to go because I want a faster, more affordable internet. That comes from major investments. And in order to have those major investments, the company's got to figure that they can get their money back. If you're going to put $10 billion into your broadband network, you better have a plan to make $20 billion out of your $10 billion. Otherwise, you're not going to get anybody to give you $10 billion to invest. Net neutrality says you can't profit off charging for higher speeds. Therefore, you put in $10 billion to get the same revenue you get today. Why put in the $10 billion? I'm telling you, it takes money to make money, and the more money they put in, the faster and cheaper the internet gets. And that's why I oppose net neutrality. And it's also, I don't like the government having any control over anything, because that leads to government manipulation. Thank you. Love you. Merry Christmas. Bye.